In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him.
Where's your throne, eh?
Into thy hands I commit my spirit. It is accomplished.
Since the beginning of time, mankind has been curious about secret things, the unknown, the dark arts. But although the desire to know more lies deep within the soul of every human being, knowing more does not come without a price. It is that desire that gives place to the greatest discoveries and opens the door to the greatest deceptions.
Queen of heaven, Queen of hell, come and hunter of the night, lend your power to our spell, and work our will by magic right.
For those who would embark on the spiritual journey to know more, the path is full of danger. The cost of breaking through the barrier of the known into the unknown is high, even tragic. The incentive for those willing to take the risk to explore the mysteries of the kingdom of darkness is the desire for immortality, the promise of power, power to determine their own destiny, and control over those who would present a threat to that power. The clash and conflict for power, the insatiable lust for more, and the utter, inexpressible evil disregard for human life has left a trail of bloodshed and plundering throughout history. The pain and chaos continues with the desensitization to danger and the glamorization of evil. The news has left us callous, while Hollywood entertains us with horror until it becomes nothing unusual. Is there a supernatural power behind the craving for power? Is there a systematic and deliberate plot, a diabolical force behind the mayhem and pain? Is there a general reorientation and repackaging of darkness that presents it as normal and appealing?
You look nothing like the devil.
Oh, really? I suppose I could have gone this way. But it's so trick-or-treat.
It's true!
Could it be that this assault and injury against the human race is more than just a coincidence, an accident, a random act of violence, as we would wish to believe? Is it an alien force that threatens us, or does he dwell in the midst of us? Could it be that the God of this age has come to claim his own through an internal and external human takeover? For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Who are these powers and principalities and rulers of the darkness who seem to be arranged in some sort of hierarchy or order that wage wage war against the inhabitants of Earth? Is there one who rules over this system? Is there a personification of power, a form that defines the forces that seek, through seduction and allurement, to persuade us? Is there an embodiment of evil that dwells in the midst of us who works to deceive us with his familiarity? Is he a myth, a legend, a lie, a fantasy, a cultural representation of darkness? Or is he real? According to George Barna, in a poll taken just last year, 60% of non-Christian Americans believe that the devil, or Satan, is not a living being but a symbol of evil. 45% of Americans, professing to be born-again Christians, do not believe the devil is real.
And we've got some young people here who are willing to talk to us about their opinions about who's the devil. How does he relate today? Is he real? Is he a figment of people's imagination? And we're just going to have a free discussion. We're going to let you in on it, so here goes. Okay, let's take some names here. Who wants to go first? How about you, sir?
All right.
What's your opinion of the devil? Your name, your opinion, what's going on with you?
Well, my name is Nick, and devil, I don't believe I've ever met him.
Okay.
If I did, I don't think he'd reveal that to me.
Yeah. So
I don't know if he's real or not.
Okay. You've never encountered... He or she? Okay. How about you, Katie?
Just from what I've learned in, like, what's Sunday school?
Oh, never been there.
I did, can you come a little closer? I guess, the devil's like the antithesis of God. It's a fallen angel.
Who's he to you? Have you got any opinion yourself?
I haven't really thought about it.
Okay.
Never been an issue in my life.
How about you, Kristen?
I think the devil is very real. I think inside us we have God and the devil playing out the forces of good and evil. And Satanism is basically bringing out the devil inside of you.
Your shirt. Tell me about your jewelry, your shirt, how you dress. Why do you dress that way?
Yeah, this is the symbol of Baphomet, the goat head, the satanic symbol. I have it on a necklace too, and an inverted cross.
Why do you wear it?
Well, I mean, I feel really comfortable about coming out and showing people who I am and what my beliefs are, and I just feel that that's the way I want to express myself.
So would you say the devil is a real being? Or
Yeah. Yeah, I feel God and the devil are real beings, and that you also have them inside of you as well, working through you. I believe they're real beings as well as forces inside a person.
So have you ever had that force inside you?
I felt it a couple times. I don't know, a lot of people don't believe that. They believe in like miracles and like experiencing Jesus or seeing Jesus or whatever coming to them and performing miracles. I think it goes the same way with the devil. I think you can witness things where it's not like you physically see him and he's physically talking to you, but you can feel his presence and feel that he's working through you just like you can with God.
How does it feel when he's working?
It's just, you just feel the energy.
So do you worship the devil?
I participate in some of the satanic rituals, but mostly they're just to bring out the devil within you. They're not really getting down on your knees and worshiping like you do God. Or you.
Have any of the rest of you ever had any of that kind of experience?
Yeah. But I think what I learned from it was it had the same fallacies that religion ever held. It was inconsequential to the human need to understand. I think more than anything, it probably just produced a lot more confusion inside of people than anything else.
So do you believe that there is a devil? And if you do, how would you describe it?
I would describe the devil as your best friend. I would say that he's the guy that'll always be there when you need him.
Given the disparity of opinion on the true nature and intention of this force, and the diversity of descriptions regarding his identity, it would be no wonder that there are differences of opinion regarding his very existence. Would it not appear that the tried and true strategy to divide and conquer has been executed brilliantly? After all, would it not be to his advantage to persuade those he is trying to deceive into denying his very existence and conceal his true identity under the guise of the familiar and acceptable? The more we see of him, the less we are shocked by him.
So who is the devil? Is he real? If he is, who created him? Can his power be destroyed? If it can, how? When? Where?
He has come to us using many names: Satan, Lucifer, the devil, Apollyon, Abaddon, Belial, Beelzebub, and he has just as many titles: the accuser, the god of this world, the tempter, the angel of light, the prince of the power of the air, the evil one, the prince of darkness. The word devil comes from the Greek word diabolos, which means slanderer, or one who accuses another. The word Satan comes from the Greek word satanas, which means the adversary, one who lies in wait for another or sets himself in opposition to another. These names illustrate two aspects of the creature's true character and method of operation. Satan became God's adversary and the enemy of creation in the garden when he came to tempt mankind to believe false accusations and allegations about God.
Who are you carrying all those bricks for anyway? God? Is that it? God? Well, I tell you, let me give you a little inside information about God. He sets the rules in opposition. It's the goof of all time. Look, but don't touch.
Originally designated as the worship leader of heaven, Satan was designed and designated to lead worship, not be worshipped. When he decided to become the object of worship, he rebelled against God and the 2/3 of the angels who had remained loyal to God.
It was curiosity that drew Eve to eat of the forbidden tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Disguised as a serpent, the accuser used Eve's innate innocence and ignorance of evil to entice her. Using her curiosity, he seduced her into disobeying God simply by planting a question in her mind. Is God good, or is he keeping something from you, something that will make you more like him? Did God really say, you must not eat from any tree in the garden? For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.
The devil is described in Scripture as the accuser of the brethren. When he stands before God, he makes allegations and accusations against mankind. He admits that he walks the earth to and fro. His primary objective is to separate God and man. He hopes that separation will be forever. According to Christian and Jewish faith, Satan was a created being made by God. He now operates as an angel of light. As a matter of fact, his name, Lucifer, means light. In his original beauty, he stood at the zenith of God's creatures. The book of Ezekiel gives a very poetic description of that beauty.
You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: ruby, topaz and emerald, chrysolite, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as the guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, until wickedness was found in you. Lucifer was not satisfied. He wanted more. Ezekiel goes on to say that Lucifer became vain. His vanity corrupted his wisdom and his nature. He became filled with violence within and sinned. Lucifer convinced 1/3 of the angels to join him in revolting against God. He desired to usurp God's authority and rule the universe himself. The prophet Isaiah wrote, "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High." Though Lucifer failed in his attempt to rule the universe in God's place, He nevertheless continues to build his kingdom on earth in an attempt to thwart God's plan for mankind. Through lies, confusion, and division, the devil camouflages his evil intentions by clouding the reality of certain ideas, beliefs, concepts, customs, rituals, and religions, making them appealing and acceptable. He is a master strategist in creating illusions. He comes as a friend, a benefactor.
Well, I think I first got involved with, it started with just kind of like a fascination with the occult and the mystery around it. I think the real involvement started with Ouija boards. Yeah, but when I got older and I started searching for answers to life's questions, I turned to the devil. I think I was just kind of searching maybe for the meaning of life or why I exist, you know. It was probably more like he found me because he saw me searching and looking for answers.
Satan now comes as an angel of light, transforming, concealing his true identity. He does not come with a tail and horns and a pitchfork. Rather, he comes as intense fear or thrilling horror or a promise of power or position. He comes with gifts, with wealth, with promises of safety. He comes as the subtle suggestion within, enticing and alluring men into believing him, coming to him without resistance.
Are you kidding? I have to give you my soul?
After you've had your wishes, of course.
But it's my soul.
What's the big deal? Have you ever seen your soul? Do you even know what it is?
Well, of course. It's the thing that
Has yours done anything for you so far? Oh, it's like your appendix. You'll never even miss it.
Hey, yeah, well, if it's so useless, then how come you want it so much?
Jesus described him as a liar. He was a murderer from the beginning. He's a thief and a robber who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. His intention is clear and unchanging. He desires the ultimate annihilation of mankind. His web of evil ensnares the world and its unsuspecting inhabitants in an insidious and deliberate scheme. He has devised a strategy and set up a system of pain and destruction to operate in every sector of human endeavor and experience. Satan's strategy especially targets critical areas of human life and development, such as worship, communications, relationships, resources, systems, and functions. Worship is the ultimate indicator of love and power, and as such, is an integral part of Lucifer's motivation. Originally designed as the worship leader of heaven, Lucifer was created for worship, not to be worshipped. His desire to be the object of worship caused him to incite a revolution against God and the 2/3 of the angels who had remained loyal. Idolatry and demon worship can take many forms and have spawned countless religions, cults, and occult practices. Mankind's innate fear of the unknown and his natural desire for power have mingled to breed a strange assortment of beliefs and customs. Every culture in every age has created rituals to stave off evil or to curry favor. None seems to be without its own set of superstitions, supernatural phenomena, and spiritual expectations, all of which are in direct violation of the first and second commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them.
In Leviticus 17, God made it clear to his people that if they were going to be his people and enter into the covenant of his protection, they could no longer offer their sacrifices to demons.
History shows that not only were these commandments ignored, but people deliberately chose to delve even further into the kingdom of darkness. The book of Deuteronomy provides lists of practices forbidden by God. Plagued by disbelief and afflicted by the consequences of their choices, the Israelites failed to heed the strong warnings made by God throughout the Old Testament. Despite God's warning not to worship demons, they continued to choose to come under the influence of carved images, sticks, and stones they had designated as gods, not realizing that the power behind the object was a demon who worked the magic and gave them power. Let no one be found among you who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. for all these things are an abomination to him. Communication provides a vital lifeline in any culture. It links and connects. It provides a means of both expression and reception. It forms the basis of relationships and governments. It provides the basis for operation in every system and becomes one of the most often targeted areas of the prince of the power of the air. Communication as an expression of human feelings in music and the arts enjoys no exemption from the plots and plans of dark powers. As the original worship leader of heaven, the devil's use of music to influence human thought and behavior becomes natural. Nothing communicates emotion and passion more powerfully than music. As a medium of emotional expression, music becomes the demonstration of anything from anger to ecstasy, sweeping people into sometimes devastating consequences. It becomes clear that vanity and image are still exalted as everything. His decision to rebel against God was rooted in his self-deification. The elements of rebellion and vanity and lust permeate every expression that proceeds from him. As God has called us to be created in his image, Satan's efforts to recreate man in his become of paramount interest. Combining beautiful images with the power of music via technology and the media, the prince of the power of the air manipulates the world with a seductive influence using sights and sounds. The devil creates a sensual, synthetic world of artificial reality that heightens discontent and creates a greater desire for the things he so wants to supply. Through the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, the pride of life, and the non-stop images of pleasure without consequences, power without responsibility, and prosperity without effort, the devil hopes to bankrupt the human race with a buy now, pay later philosophy. Eat, drink, and be merry becomes an empty pit of loneliness, depression, and despair. Satan creates a world so appealing, many find it difficult to resist. Though his intentions to pervert the truth and exalt the counterfeit have convinced some, others have found a more excellent way, the highway of holiness. The effect of repeated exposure to enticing images, coupled with the need to escape the growing feelings of emptiness, make a profound impact on the human spirit.
Relationships with real people often suffer and end tragically under the pressure. When faith in human relationships fails, people often turn to alcohol, meaningless sexual encounters, and suicide.
And that's just the way I lived all my life. But I was just surviving. And I was serving this master. And the master, the road is so broad and wide to hell. And the master is the master of deceit. And he had me deceived that I just had a problem with drugs, or with anger, or with other people, and all the while he just had me enslaved to him. He was the master deceiver.
As is often the case, in the desperate search for meaning and significance, some are enticed into seeking a deeper revelation and relationship with spiritual beings. Originally created to be in a spiritual relationship with God, makes turning to the spirit world for answers a natural response. Though many seek God for comfort and redemption, others choose a more mysterious and forbidden path. Wanting the more immediate pleasures and promises that evil offers makes hedonism, paganism, witchcraft, and Satanism all popular alternative lifestyle choices. Accessing the spiritual world can take many avenues and can begin as easily as going to a movie or reading a book. The dangers of darkness, though not always readily apparent, are nonetheless real. Those who enter such relationships do so at great peril to their own souls. Some make a deliberate choice to follow the devil, professing their intentions openly.
It wasn't uncommon for people to be inducted by scarification at all.
What's called scarification?
Scarification.
I was part of the group that would watch the head priest do the sacrificing. And the thing that made me freak out about the whole deal is when they actually did a human sacrificial.
You actually saw that?
Yeah. And what they did is, if you guys don't mind me getting into detail about it, I could get a little bit of trouble for this too. What went on is they laid down a black silk sheet that had a pentagram painted on it, and they laid black candles around in each corner. And in order for a female to be joined in, or what the cult that I was in, for a woman to get involved into Satanism, what they did is they took a knife and carved the satanic pentagram, like what's on her shirt, into her chest, and it drained the blood off of her chest into a glass. And they'd pass it around to each person. They'd have to drink out of the glass. So they'd have to drink this other person's blood. And then that girl was a member of the satanic cult.
Did you actually see a human being sacrifice them?
Yeah, that's what scared the hell out of me, and that's why I decided to quit it. It's on end where I'd hear the voice of small children screaming when I close my eyes at night to go to sleep. And also, I'd like walk around, and from leaving the satanic cult, there's been forces that actually threw me against walls. And I went to church one day to free myself from it. My arm literally busted open in the spot. I got a little bit of a scar to prove it. It's like right there. And my arm started gushing blood out. I mean, I would not want to see anything like that happen to you. So I would suggest giving it some deep thought. I mean, it's nothing to mess around with. It's getting in touch with the dark side of the world. And a lot of people think, well, demons ain't really all that real. But what I saw...
What did you see?
I was laying down one night and I heard something rattling underneath this little bamboo bench that I had. And I looked underneath there and I just heard something like laugh with like a demonic drawl. And it laughed and I heard something scurry across the floor. And the next day I was cooking some breakfast and I saw a tail that was probably about like that around, that had no hair on it. It was all skin and veins. And I saw that and I was thinking, well, that's just a snake. But then again, after that, I heard the same thing rattle, like some like rattling up against something, and I heard that little laughing. And that's when I realized that I opened up some doors that were not supposed to be there.
Pulled in by the congenial, self-serving presentation of dark powers, they make their initial entrance through portals of light. The incentive to connect with darkness is enhanced by the thrill of horror or the internalization of power and the feelings of being in control. Casting spells and mixing potions to manipulate others makes the practice of witchcraft both fun and appealing. They actively seek out a relationship with Satan for assistance and guidance.
And I wanted to have my own, power and to go straight to the man they're worshiping anyway, Satan. Yeah, I guess it just started with like different chants and stuff. I guess I got kind of greedy and I just started commanding these spirits to do what I wanted them to do. And it appeared to me like they were doing it because I'd see my friends manifest all around me. Well, I was walking to work one day. I was supposed to fill in for my dad while he was at work. And I looked across the street, and I looked through the window, and he was in the store talking to this man. And instantly, I just felt fear just move through my body, just instant fear. And I looked at his face, and it was his body, but his face was the face of this demon. It had these short, stubby horns, and this kind of green leatherish face kind of went down and kind of pointed. And it was looking right at me, and I kind of went insane after I saw it. And I think something got inside me because I kind of just completely lost control of my life. I felt like I was kind of just trapped inside. Like I knew what was kind of going on, but I was kind of helpless to do anything about it. It wasn't like they were telling me what to do. They were doing it through me. It just felt like I didn't even have any control anymore. I'd gone too far in this thing. And when it felt like I had lost control, that's when I got scared, because before that, it felt like I was in control of the situation. And it started very innocently, and then it progressed into the point where I didn't have control anymore. Satan had brought me to an all-time low, and I felt like there was so much of him in my life and so little of me that it's like he almost brought me into a different spiritual realm at times. And where I would see these little black dots floating around, and I wasn't on drugs, I was completely sober. It's almost like he brought me into the spiritual realm to see what was going on or something. But there's all these black dots, and instantly I knew those were demons. I didn't actually see the entire body of the demon, but I saw the dots and how they would fly from person to person, and they'd attach themselves either on their shoulders, or if they wouldn't attach themselves, they'd just visit the person and move on. Well, they looked about softball size. They all looked black. Some of it looked like blacker than other ones, but they were all about softball size, and it felt like I had power like over them. Like I could tell them to go to that person and focus the energies or whatever that on them, and I could see this dot come and attach itself to the back of this person, and it would stay there. To the skeptic, I'd probably tell them, I think for a split second, if anyone's out of the spiritual realm, they'd have a completely different perception on life, because the Bible even says the spiritual is more real than the physical. And I know for a fact when I started doing this stuff, and the demon would attach himself, I could smell the burning of flesh. When I made a conscious decision to give my life to Christ, the pastors would bind the spirit in me, whatever spirit they were dealing with, and cast it out in the name of Jesus. And they'd pray in tongues, or they'd say, be loosed, and different things. And it felt like this thing was being literally ripped out of my soul. And it was extremely painful. At times, thing would take over my body, and I'd roll around on the carpet, and I'd rug burns all over my face and arms and stuff, and it was extremely painful. It is extremely painful.
Others make choices unaware of the dangers of evil. Influenced by the moment, impulsivity, or persuaded by friends, they're swept into circumstances that close in on them.
I was actually in a Christian home. I met a girl over there, and I found out later that she was a witch. I guess after the first year and a half, 2 years, I got back to the States, and that's when I started getting into Satan worship. We danced. It was a coven, and we danced. As usually a lot of nudity involved, a lot of satanic sex is involved with that, a lot of chanting. Well, we got a lot of power, levitation, certain things that was manifested into us that we could levitate ourselves, we could fly around. Well, I went to another party, and it was actually a drinking party that I went to, and they had a Ouija board there, and they started asking questions that they shouldn't have been asking. They were asking questions about God. One guy asked the wrong question, and he was thrown through a third-story window. I'd say they are a fool not to think it's real. At first, he'll be all kind to you. Well, I'd hear voices all the time. I've seen many curses of headache, sickness. I've even seen curses of love, using their locks of their hair in different potions, and using words, casting spells. I felt good. I felt like I had control. I think I did cross over a line at one point. I was outer guard of a coven. This was just north of San Francisco, and I was the outer ring was actually the guard, and I was a part of the guard, and I knew exactly what they were doing. On the inner circle, they were sacrificing a human being. This was in October. I'm aware that she was about 12 years old. I knew what they were doing. In fact, I didn't do anything to stop it. That's what hurts me most. For a long time, I was hurting inside. I didn't know what was wrong. And anyways, I've been saved now for about a year and a half, and I heard people talking, and I just says, man, there's a power greater than what I'm into. Forgiving myself is the hardest part. I believe Jesus loves me.
Seeking an escape from boredom or desiring to belong, many become part of the plot, never realizing themselves to be the prey.
Although some people stumble into the devil's dark kingdom unknowingly, others are simply born into it.
And when I grew up, they were kind of like my role models. So when I grew up, I wanted to be a drug dealer, because a drug dealer's always driving in nice cars, nice jewelry, all the girls and the money, and that's the kind of life I wanted to live. A lot of drug dealers, they have parties, santeria. What they do is they come together and they use a santeria for their protection. It's witchcraft. It's saints, it's demonic. Yeah, this is my saint here, which is the Indian. That was the main saint I used to have. His name is Cativa, which that's the name I used to call when I wanted to call him to manifest in me. When I used to receive those demons, they used to come down pretty wild. The Indian was pretty wild. He would come in and he was wild. He wanted to drink. He wanted to party. I seen guys that they were doing witchcraft. They had their own demons, and they got shot 15 times and still walking. When they come to visit, when they come and they manifest themselves in whoever the santero is, wherever he's at, and they come to manifest themselves, they want to come and smoke a cigar, or they want to come and drink to them in the manifestation of the person who has them. So you have to have certain things for them. If not, if they come in, they come down, and you don't have a cigar, they really get upset. Inside the person who they manifest themselves, that person will be with a lot of anger, just breaking things. It can hurt the person who he's manifested on. They can hurt him. They can take his life. They can give him pain. They can take somebody else's life in the manifestation of that person. This guy here, this Indian, Cativa Hindu, was the guy that I used to receive. So he was the one that was protecting me in the meantime.
And some want out. They've had it. This 26-year-old dungeon master decided to burn over $7,000 worth of maps, manuals, and related Dungeons & Dragons instruction books and paraphernalia after 2 serious attempts at suicide. Encountering physical heart problems and constantly being stalked by voices in his head and demons in his house persuaded Mike to take a look at his life.
Did you feel away from God, this strange, when you were playing this?
Yeah, I mean, I was, went to church the whole bit. Didn't quite know the whole truth, but, I was basically your good Christian kid brought up, and go to church, go to Sunday school every Sunday.
And playing this in addition to all
At the same time, yeah.
So what made you decide to give it up?
About 2 years ago, one of my friends seen that I was ready to hear about Jesus. I'd had enough, and I had actually tried to commit suicide, but that attempt failed. And what happened was I got just stopped, basically, by God, or one of God's messengers, and got stopped and could not commit suicide, and there was no explainable reason why my vehicle would not turn off the road when I yanked the steering wheel at 110 mile an hour. And being a mechanic, I come back home, and the next morning threw it up on the rack and could not find a single thing wrong with my vehicle.
So what was your concept of the devil at that time? Who is the devil?
A lot of people think that he's just malicious and mean, and he's not. He can be one of the sweetest things you've ever known, but it's all a trick.
It's a trick.
And that's all it is. It's just a trick. It's one big fast gauge, you could say. It's all just to set you up to make you fall even harder.
David made a similar break with darkness and witchcraft after years of wild street fighting and drug dealing. Being internally controlled by a spirit guide only deluded him into thinking he was invincible.
I have true joy in my life now. I have peace. I don't have to call upon these saints. I don't have to do all these sacrifices. Jesus was my sacrifice. So all I have to do is call upon him. And when I find myself in trouble, I can pray. And Jesus always gives me the peace. He's always there with me. There is a better way. And the witchcraft is false. It's a deceive. That's not the way. Jesus is the way.
Who the Son set free is free indeed, Father God. You do not have to be in captivity. You do not have to be in bondage. Because you came from captivity. You came from God.
Guarding and conserving the earth and its resources protects our future. Destroying the seed becomes an effective way to destroy the future of any culture, the human race. Our children carry hope in the human generation, ranging from the blatant and obvious to the socially acceptable. The assault on the children becomes one of the devil's most well-devised schemes. He undermines both parental authority and their attempts to protect them. He recreates human responses through psychological reconditioning, trauma, exposure to danger, neglect, deprivation, and family dysfunction. Although parental care and affection for their children would seem to be a natural and common bond among all peoples, the staggering number of reports of abuse and violence by parents toward children, either by design or dysfunction, seems to be growing out of control.
Well, I work with children who are seriously emotionally disturbed. That would be under SED diagnosis. That comes from the DSM-4, which would be examples maybe ADHD, depression, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, those sorts of things. I guess what I see is, what comes to mind is confusion. They don't really know where to turn to, the parents or the kids. They're not able to relate to each other. They're feeling anxious quite often. I even see it in some parents. I've seen even break out in things in their hands and on their arms and that sort of stuff, because they're so anxious they don't know what to do with their children. I have run across some parents who really don't want to be parents. I have some kids on my caseload who are abandoned. It seems like it's getting worse. The cases are getting worse. The children are getting more violent. The internet. Oh my gosh. Most all my clients staffed are just, most of them kids have been perverted through the internet.
The heathen nations of the Old Testament sacrificed their children to the demon god of Moloch and the Baals. The children of Israel also began to sacrifice their children to demons. The practice infuriated God. The shedding of innocent blood to invoke the favor and protection from demons became a common practice.
Though the practice of child sacrifice still flourishes in the earth, few would accept the practice of placing their babies on the altars of gods and goddesses as socially acceptable. Modern technology, education, and legislation, however, have given our society permission to place those babies on the altar of stem cell research, personal convenience, and individual rights. The issue of human life has shifted from one of moral absolute to legal debate.
Children who survive the womb continue to face the more subtle dangers that come through toys, games, TV programs, advertisements, video games, peer pressure, and books. Even parents who love their children and take responsibility for protecting them often become unwitting accomplices in the assault. Under the guise of popular children's literature, fun, fantasy, and learning to read, the devil has set a new string of traps. Teaching them spells, incantations, and witchcraft has become a multi-billion-dollar business.
The principle is that if you learn certain words, you can have power. And the books, the Harry Potter series, are connected to websites that get you into arenas where there are experts at teaching you the spells, the legitimate spells. What the reader is being introduced into in Harry is that there is legitimacy in rituals and spells, which are a sort of another word, let's say, of repetitive prayers, as Jesus said in Matthew, that don't be like the Gentiles and the pagans that just repeat their prayers for what they want.
All forms of life on Earth are sustained in and through systems and functions. All systems, both naturally occurring and man-made, are based on laws and absolutes. Although they can and often do function under the stress of less than ideal conditions, life and its processes operate best in a state of order and equilibrium. Physics, mathematics, and justice all operate to maintain balance and alignment in relationships. Homeostasis and harmony promote health and safety. Optimum performance and quality of life are found when life processes are in harmony with the rules that govern that system. God is a God of order. He has set all things in their proper order and course to promote and protect life. The devil comes as a destroyer. He promotes confusion and is the source of chaos. Pain and hurt are the byproducts of this disruption. That dysfunction can manifest in the human body as disease or in society as rebellion. It comes to corrupt the flow of life and withhold those things necessary to its continuance. Disruption and breakdown of systems and functioning of those systems in individuals, families, and governments all bring imbalance and separation. The loss of balance takes away peace and promotes anger and anxiety. True to his nature, the devil delights in creating havoc in God's creation through illness, disease, depression, and failure. He promotes lies and discord within families, unleashing strife among people and war between nations. He perverts justice and tampers with the foundation stones of nature itself, influencing individuals to follow him. Why? What are the devil's intentions? Is it his destiny and final call to rule the world and gather the souls of men? The Bible gives strong indications that indeed it is. During Jesus' temptation in the wilderness, just prior to the start of his ministry, the devil tempted Jesus to exchange his power and sonship for immediate rulership of the world. All these things I will give you if you will fall down and worship me. Jesus was not persuaded by the offer and refused to take a shortcut around the cross. Only the victory of the cross, established by Jesus Christ, stands between us and eternal damnation. The demonic forces aligned against mankind can be thwarted only as true believers in Christ enforce that victory. It was to them that Jesus imparted his authority to cast out demons and bind the forces of darkness. Despite the devil's power and influence, he is not omnipotent. Jesus continues to wage war against him through his church. I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. I give you authority over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. Satan has established an evil moral system to oppose and destroy all that God holds dear. The stakes are high. The eternal destiny of every soul on earth hangs in the balance. Though the devil has technically already been defeated, the contest continues. Knowing that the destiny of each individual is determined by that individual's choices, the devil sees plenty of prizes yet to be had. As that final hour approaches, the devil continues to mount his final assault against the throne of God, Armageddon. And I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. Then God will come down from heaven and devour him, and the devil will be cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where he will be tormented day and night, forever and ever.
Out of the rubble of human systems, the demonic assaults, the desolation of many generations, come the ransomed, the redeemed of the Lord, led forth by the Lord God, King of heaven, triumphant. Even so, come, Lord Jesus.